What's up, Notjust developers? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have prepared a huge project for you. Today we're gonna build a full-fledged chatting and video calling application in React Native and Expo. The application is similar to Telegram, WhatsApp, or any other messaging application that has features to chat with different users and to do audio and video calls. So actually, in fact, this is two applications in one. We're gonna first focus on the chatting functionalities, and we're gonna allow users to chat between each other, and all of the features that you'd expect in a chatting application we're gonna have, such as replies, reactions, links, sending photos, videos, GIFs, seeing when the user was last online. So everything that you expect from a chatting application we are going to have by the end of this tutorial. Then the exciting part comes next, which is also in this video. We're going to implement video and audio calls between the users, so everything is going to happen in the same application. They will be able to make calls between each other, they will be able to make group calls, and a lot more. So yeah, that's huge. That's huge, and thinking that we're gonna be able to do everything in one video is mind-blowing. And you know why that's possible? That's possible because the tool that we're gonna use for this, we're gonna use Streamchat, which has a lot of the whole infrastructure for chatting, video and audio calls, and a lot of pre-built components that we can also adjust, and we will also see how to work with that. And yeah, this is going to be at the core of our application. For the tech stack, as I said, on the front end, we're going to have React Native, Expo, and Expo router. Because the tutorial is going to be quite huge, quite in-depth, you will benefit from some experience with some of the tools like that you see here, because we're going to move a little bit faster than usual just to manage to do everything in time. But anyway, I'm going to explain step by step everything that I'm doing. So I'm pretty sure even if you are a beginner, you're going to be able to have a fully functional chatting and video calling application by the end. Also on the tech stack, on the backend, my keyboard is not working. On the backend, we're gonna use Streamchat to provide the chatting, video, and audio calling. And we're gonna use Supabase as our custom database. We're not gonna use a lot of features from Supabase because I just want to simulate the possibility to have your custom backend and connect your users with Stream users. We're gonna talk about that a bit later. This video is brought to you by Stream, so thank you very much, Stream, for sponsoring this video. And if you don't know about Stream, you're gonna very soon find out about them and see how easy it is to build this kind of application using Stream. So if we are ready, let's get started. Let's roll the intro. And before we actually get started, here I have a short demo. We have application running on Android on the left, on my physical device in the middle, and on an iOS emulator here. So if we go to the chat screen, we will see a list of chats that we have. So if I'm gonna go here, which is the chat with this physical device, and I'm gonna say, hello, we're gonna see right away a new notification, a new message coming here. If I open up, we see the message there. I can answer from my device like this. I can also send GIFs like this. I can send links and a lot more. I can react to messages. I can start threads. As you can see, I can reply to messages and a lot more. The same thing works with Android as well. So if I'm gonna send here to the Android a message, it's going to pop up right away here. My Android is a bit laggy, but everything works as I tested it. And for the video calls, let's see how that would happen. For example, if I go from the emulator to this user and say, hey, I want to give it a call, we can go ahead and press here, and we see the incoming call, which here on my device, you can see that this is the system interface for incoming calls. So it's not in-app, it's actually using the system call interface. I can accept it, and then we can join a call. So from here, I'm gonna have to mute. Come on. From here as well. Yeah, from here as well. Hello, hello. From there, I can then drop a call. And these notifications are working also when the application is not running. So if I send a message, we're gonna receive a notification. Yeah, here is the notification. If I send it again, it should appear at the top. Here it is. It will open the application. And also, if we call while the application is in background, it's going to pop up this screen. Perfect. So that was a quick demo. I think it's time to actually get started. I'm going to probably close some of this stuff. The Android, maybe we're gonna need it later. And let's go ahead and start building this ourselves. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and open a terminal to get started by initializing a new project. So I'm gonna open a terminal here. Let's make it bigger so that you can see as well. Let's go to my projects. I'm gonna go here. And when you're in that project, let's go ahead and initialize a new Expo project using npx create Expo app, then add latest to take the latest version of create Expo application. And let's go ahead and call it Telegram, because we are building a Telegram clone. This will initialize our empty project. From there, we're gonna go ahead and set up Expo router for our navigation, and then start working with Streamchat. And while this is initializing, I saw that there are new people in our chat. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone who is new and who is all subscribers here. If you're new, my name is Vadim, and on this channel, my mission is to help you build impactful mobile applications. So if you're on that journey, if you're interested in new technologies, if you're interested in React Native, make sure to hit subscribe because we do a lot of fun project-based tutorials that can help you learn and become a better developer. So thank you very much. And let me check the live chat. Today we see a lot of people. How are you doing, guys? Let me put it here so I can see you. I can look in your eyes. I have a teleprompter so I can see right there. Love a part about incoming calling UI. First tutorial on YouTube. Yes, I saw a lot of people interested in that, and I really hope we have time to get to that, because that is going to be the last part of a tutorial when integrating notifications. So, your name is what? I didn't get you. My name is Vadim. That's, I don't know, probably hard to pronounce name for a lot of international people. But yeah, so here we have our application running. Let's go ahead and open it up where? Like this. Let's go ahead and open it up in Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to use code and then the name of our application, and that will automatically open the application here. Okay, let's do it like this. Usually the first step I do in a new project is I switch it right away to Typescript. And again, we might not use we might not have to type everything in our application, but just by having TypeScript enabled and typing some of the stuff that are important is already better than not having it at all. So to enable TypeScript, I'm gonna go ahead and rename app.js to app.tsx. Then when I open a terminal where is it? Visual Studio Code. Here, when I open a terminal and run npm start to start the Expo development server, Expo will see that I have TypeScript installed, and it will ask us if I have a TypeScript file, and it will ask if we want to set up TypeScript. It will go ahead and actually configure TypeScript here, and now run the application with TypeScript enabled. To run this application, I'm gonna run it on this iOS emulator by pressing I. iOS simulator. You can also do it on Android, or you can use the Expo Go application available both on Android and iOS and scan this QR code to run it directly on your device. By the end of this video, we're going to actually have to build the native side of our application. We're going to use pre-build and generate the native side. But yeah, that's a normal use case nowadays, because whenever we have to work with custom native code, we simply can create these development builds, which are not very complicated. So if you're scared of them, don't be. I'm going to show you how to do it. Do you use native iOS or Android? I don't code natively for iOS and Android. I use React Native. But if you're asking in the context of React Native, if I use native iOS and Android, then yes. So having our application here, we see it running. We see open up notjust to start working on your application. If we open it up, this is the entry point in our application. I'm not going to stop too much here. As I said, I expect you to have a little bit of familiarity with React Native. Simply app.tsx is the first file in our application at the moment. So let me go ahead and I will keep track of all the changes in a Git. So I'm going to add everything and I'm going to say git commit setup Expo. And later you're going to have access to the source code as well. The next step is actually to go ahead and set up Expo router. We're going to use Expo router for the navigation in our application. We're going to have multiple screens. So for that reason, we're going to use Expo router, which is a file-based navigation system built on top of React navigation. So let's go ahead, open the router introduction, and let's go to the installation here. I'm going to stop from time to time and answer some questions, but as you can see, like I'm pushing through because I really want to manage to show you also like the notifications, which takes a bit of time. So let's go into the Expo router. Under the installation, we're going to skip the quick start and go directly to manual installation. We already have an Expo project, so let's go to the step 2 to install dependencies. I'm going to copy this install command. I'm going to go back to my project, open the terminal, and in a new terminal by pressing plus, let's go ahead and install the Expo router dependencies. I'm going to go back to see already the third step, which is to update the entry point in our application. And to do that, we're going to change the main field in the package.json. So I'm going to go into package.json here and find the main, and let's update it to Expo router /entry. This is how we tell React Native that Expo router should be the entry point of our application, and then Expo router takes it from there. We need to also provide the scheme in our app.json. So I can go in app.json. This is where we configure information about our project. And the scheme is used for deep linking, and Expo router is handling, let's do my Telegram. Expo router is handling deep links automatically, so that's why we need to specify the scheme here so that Expo router can use it for the deep links. Now we're not gonna have it available for web at the moment. The Babel config is already fixed for us. So yeah, I think the next step is going to be to go ahead and run our project again. So open the terminal, go back where it is running. We need to stop it and we need to start it, but this time with -- space -- clear in order to clear the macro cache. Now it's working. I think I can go ahead and press I again to open it on iOS. And for some reason it's still opening that one, but if I reload the application, it should load the new bundle because I didn't close the application, that's why. And we see the welcome screen from Expo. We see this screen because we haven't set up any any screens in our application. The way Expo Router is working is it's a file-based navigation system, so it will look in the app directory and check what files you have there, and based on that files, it will automatically create screens. So instead of what we have to do is, first of all, let's create our source folder, calling it as, new folder src. And inside the source folder, let's create a new one called app folder. And right away, I'm going to create another folder in the source in order for you to see them better, because if there is only one folder, like it shows in the same line. But now you can see that we have a source folder and then the app folder. The name app and source is important, so keep them like this, because Expo Router is looking in this app folder and checks what screens do you have there. So if we create there a file index.tsx, that's going to be our home screen or our /route. We can go ahead and actually copy everything that we have in app.tsx, move it to our newly created index screen. And now we don't even need the app.tsx anymore. So we can delete it because that was from previous configuration when we didn't have Expo Router. Now I can go ahead and reload my application, and hopefully Expo Router will pick up this file as our home screen. So that's what we should see here. We can also rename it from app to home screen. And we see it here, hello world. Perfect. Command Shift. Yeah. Hello world is here. And I just changed the, how's it called, the theme, because it was dark theme on the device. Now it looks good. Okay, so now we have our Expo Router folder. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to prepare the different screens and folders that we're gonna need in our application. Because our application is also going to have authentication, so user will be able to create accounts and sign in, we're going to have a separate folder for our authentication screens, and we're gonna call it auth inside brackets. We put it inside brackets because we don't want auth to be part of a URL. We want, for example, to go to the /login, which is going to be another screen there. We're gonna add it a bit later. So because we are gonna have auth screens and then the rest of the screens, which means that the rest of the screens, the user should be able to go there only if he's authenticated. That's why I'm going to create another folder here, which is going to represent all the screens that the user should be able to go to only when he's authenticated. So for the name, you can think about like authenticated or something like that, but I'm going to reuse the same word app to say that there is all our app screens. Our application is going to be very dependent on being authenticated, so we're not going to have a lot of public screens. That's why most of the stuff is going to be inside this app folder, which requires the user to be authenticated. We are going to also have a layout file in the root directory. Layouts is how Expo Router is sharing code between multiple screens. So here, if I do export default function root layout, and I'm going to return, for example, null, we're gonna see that nothing is rendered on the screen. And that's because, as I said, layout is the Expo Router first mounts the layout and only then mounts the screens. So inside these layouts. So the layout is the code that is being shared among all the other screens inside the directory. So this layout is our root layout, and that's where we're gonna set define global providers, such as authenticator provider or theme provider, and so on, providers. But in order to see something on the screen, we need to actually render something. We can render probably a slot, which is a component imported from React Native that simply renders the screen that we want to render. If we want to render for maybe a stack, that will already put all of the screens in a stack, so we're gonna see a header as well. So I'm not sure yet like what we're gonna have here, but we can come back and change because it's not that complicated. So I'm gonna leave stack for now. Okay, moving on. Let's focus on the application screens. Our application, this app folder that has like parentheses, or should I call it home? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna leave it like this. So this app directory is for authenticated users. So as I said, most of the screens will be there. One of the things that we're gonna have there is I want to have a bottom tab navigation where the user can navigate from chat, profile, and so on. So for that reason, in the app directory, I'm going to create a new folder called tabs. In this tabs folder, again, in order to have VS Code to display them properly, I'm also gonna create the layout of our app folder. This is already not the root layout. This is export, default, function. Let's actually call it home. Home or user or something like that. Because whenever I'm going to refer to the app directory, like it's going to be confusing. So now I'm going to refer to the home as the screens where users should be authenticated. So here we're going to have a home layout, and this layout is going to be shared or wrapped only on the screens inside the home layout. So that's where we're going to do later a bit of guarding, like navigation if user is not authenticated. But for now, we can go ahead and render a stack. Okay, now in our tabs, we're gonna have, first of all, the index or the main tab when we're gonna go there. Let's create here a function, export default function main tab screen. I'm not sure like what we're gonna have there, most probably the list of chats, but for now let's simply return and render a text saying main tab. This text we can import from React Native. Import text from React Native. And if I'm going to at this moment we have to somehow navigate to this home screen. I can implement some buttons here, but what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to go in the index from the app directory. And here, instead of rendering something, I'm going to render a redirect to make sure that whenever we go to the home screen, we are right away redirected to our tabs, which is the main screen for the moment. So the redirect is a component imported from Expo router. So I want to redirect to the /home/tabs, and that's it, /home and then /tabs. This is the names of our directories. So if I do that, /tabs, and reload, we see an unmatched route. Why? In the index. Export default function, home, tabs, index, home, /tabs, home. What if I do just home? It's still unmatched. I have some issues probably. So let me try to stop the server and reload it again. How is everyone doing so far? Are you guys following along, or do you plan to do it later? So there is something going on here. Why? In the layout home, the home layout, export default function. If I'm gonna have an index here just for testing purposes. Home tabs, but I said let's try just home. So going to home works. But going to /tabs doesn't. /tabs index. Function main tab screen. Oh, it should be tab/index. /tab/index. Like this, right? Now, come on. Well, most probably our tabs, the problem is that our tabs doesn't have a layout yet. So layout TSX. Here is where we're going to make these screens, we're going to set them up in a tab navigator. So let's export default function tabs navigator. And to put them in a tab navigator, we simply return a tabs from here, which is a component imported from Expo router. Again, it doesn't work. Come on. Okay, now it works. If I just navigate to tabs, the index had some issues. So now what we see is that we have a main tab. And if I'm gonna go into the tabs and create another or duplicate the index and rename the second copy to profile and change the text here to profile, we're gonna right away have two tabs at the bottom, index and profile. And just because we have too many headers at the top, they're coming from, if I go to the tabs, the tab will have the header, which is profile or index here. If I'm gonna go one layer up into the home layout, here we are rendering a stack. Maybe we can render a slot, and in that case, it's not going to render a header. And the same thing with a root layout. If rendering a slot, it's not gonna render the header. I'm not sure. Later, we might come back to a stack if we're going to have multiple screens in, for example, our home. We definitely will have multiple screens here. But for now, rendering a slot is okay for us. So here we have our tabs with the index, which is going to be our main tabs or the chats, and the profile. If I go into the tabs layout, here is where we can also adjust a little bit the configuration. For example, if I'm going to move to an opening and closing tag, and then target tabs.screen. So we still have a tabs, then tabs.screen. And if I target using the name of the file, for example, index, I would be able to adjust all the options that you can adjust in React navigation. For example, I can set the title to chats. And it updates at the top and it updates at the bottom. I think we should also be able to do icon, right? Tab bar icon, which is a function that should render the tab bar icon. What I can do is I can go ahead and do Expo vector icons, open the Expo vector icons, and from here let's find some like chat, or maybe we're gonna have the first one is home. From maybe font awesome. Let's try font awesome. Let's import it at the top of our tabs navigator and render the font awesome icon with a home here. This tab bar icon will also give us the size and the color, so we don't have to hard code them, but take them from the configuration color. So now they'll have a proper color and proper size. The same thing we can do for the other tab, which is the profile. We're gonna target the profile file. We're gonna title it with capital profile. And this one, let's find the profile user font awesome 5. Do we have here user alt or just user? So if I do user for the name, it's going to be our user, maybe user dash alt. Yes, okay. Now we have proper things here. I don't like the, the home screen, but that's not the most important, the chat from font awesome 5. Message. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna leave it like that. Excessively waiting for authentication. We're gonna get there, but first, we are very close to finishing up, setting up our structure, like the screens that we're gonna have. Of course, later we're gonna add more screens, but for now, I think we are ready. So what do we have? Let's recap. We have our app directory, which is the Expo router application, where we keep our screens. So the first screen is the home screen, the index.tsx. At the moment, it does nothing, and probably it's still going to do nothing even later. It's going to only handle like redirection. So we're redirecting to home tabs, as this is the main screen. In the, we have the off folder, which later we're gonna add the login screen. And then we have a home folder where we're gonna keep all the screens that require the user to be authenticated. In the home here, we have the tabs, and later we're gonna also have like other screens outside the tabs. That's why I didn't make the home folder a tab navigator, but I rather have a separate tabs here because I might want to have screens outside the bottom tab navigator. So that's why at this moment it might look a little bit overcomplicated with a lot of nesting, but as our application is going to grow, and trust me, our application is going to grow, our setup is going to serve us very well, and it's going to allow us to easily manage everything at their level. And lastly, we have our tabs, which in the layout, we set it as a tab navigator, and that put them in a tabs here at the bottom. And we have two screens, the index, where we probably will display the chats, and also the profile, where later we're going to display the profile screen. So with that being said, we are actually done with this Expo setups, Expo router setup. So let me do git add, git commit -m setup Expo router. Perfect. Everyone good so far? Oh, we have passed the 100 concurrent viewers. That's amazing. So I imagine there is a lot of new people here. So if you're new and if you are just joining, in this tutorial, what we are doing is we are building a chat and a video calling application all in once. So we're gonna have like chatting with all the features that you'd expect a chat application to have, and also video and audio calling. And that's going to be a very exciting project, very complete, like very huge. I've been working the last more than 1 week to prepare for this. So I'm pretty sure you're gonna love it. So if you enjoyed so far, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because from our analytics, we know that more than 99% of you watching are not subscribed, which is a bit sad. But anyway, let's go ahead and continue. So we get to the part where we start integrating Streamchat. So as I said, Streamchat, we can go to getstream.io. This is a service that allows us to easily integrate chatting in our application. And more recently, they also added the video and audio calling feature, which is a game changer, like truly. It makes it super easy to build application like this, which in the past requires so much resources. You cannot even imagine how hard it is to build a video and audio calling application yourself. Handling all the WebRTC and so on, like it's crazy. So a lot of popular applications are using it just because of the simplicity. And actually, we have an incubator program, and I recommend Streamchat to a lot of our founders that want to integrate chatting in their application when chatting is not their main feature, because that will save you a lot of time. So let's go ahead and create an account. Creating an account is free, and they also have a maker account. So if you're gonna search Stream Maker account, the maker account is a free account for new projects and for small startups, and it's completely free but has some requirements to have less than 5 people in the team, and less than 100,000 in annual revenue. So if you have less than 100K in annual revenue, Streamchat is going to be free. So let's go ahead and create an account. As I said, that's free. You can do that. And when going to our project, to our dashboard, let's go ahead and press Create Application. Let's give it a name. I'm going to give it Telegram. Let's choose a server closer to you or to your end users. And for environment, I'm going to keep it development for now. Let's press Create Application, and up with this name already exists. Let's call it Not Just Telegram. Yes, that one worked. All right, so here we have our application. We're gonna come back later to this dashboard, so keep it open, and I'm gonna tell you when we need it. But now let's go ahead and open the Stream documentation. Yeah, just by going to Stream, let's go to Products, Chat and Messaging. We're gonna start with Chat and Messaging, and let's go to the Developer, Documentation, Chat Messaging. And here are a lot of documentation for a lot of technologies that you might use. As you can see, it supports almost everything. What we are interested in is React Native. So for the front end, let's find React Native and let's go to the UI components here. You can read more about them here, the architecture, the dependencies, but I'm gonna go right away into the installation. Let me zoom in a bit so that you can see as well. So what do we need? For Expo, actually, yeah, we are using Expo. So let's follow this guide. That for environment setup. Okay, let's continue. First step is to add Streamchat Expo dependency to our application. So make sure to choose the Expo here, not React Native CLI, and we're gonna go ahead and copy the command, come back to our project, and let's install Streamchat Expo. I'm gonna go back and I'm going to install the rest of the dependencies that it needs. So let's copy the next command, come back to our project, and after the first Streamchat Expo is installed, we can install the rest of the dependencies. There are quite a lot of dependencies, but think about all the features that Streamchat provides. They are powered by a lot of these dependencies. For example, you need the Expo Media Library to be able to share and access the device gallery to share photos. You need the net info to know about the information about network. You need Expo file system, again, to perform like save and delete files. You need image picker, manipulator to compress images when uploading, Reanimated to also compress them, and a lot of others. So yeah, that's why we have some of these dependencies. But in a large application, you most probably are already using some of these libraries. Anyway, there are also some optional dependencies that I'm not going to install, but by installing them, you're just gonna go get right away some new features and added benefits. For example, installing Expo AV will allow you to play videos, audio playbacks, and also to send audio messages. By installing Expo Sharing, we're going to be able to share with our application, have clipboard to copy paste, and so on. React Native Quick SQLite will enable offline support. So if you are not pressed by time, I recommend going through the installation guide of all of these dependencies and make sure to check additional steps. For example, you open this one and you check the additional steps that you need to take if there are any. Okay, so here are some of the important additional steps we need to take for the dependencies that we already installed, such as React Native Reanimated. We have to add the React Native Reanimated plugin to our Babel config. So find the Babel config file in your project. We don't have any plugins yet, so I'm going to add plugins here. And I'm going to add React Native Reanimated plugin. If you have plugins, make sure this one is the last one in the list. Then the gesture handler we should render or wrap our application with a gesture handler root view. We're going to do that in the root layout. So let's open source, application, and layout. And that's where, as I said, we define global providers. So let's import gesture handler root view and wrap our slot in the gesture handler root view. And make sure that the slot is inside this root view. And to make it render on the full screen, I'm gonna add a flex one here. Okay, now that works. What else? Please also follow the steps mentioned in the links below. Image cropper. Let's see if we have any. Okay, hopefully we don't need to do that, but if something is not working, make sure to follow all of these additional steps. I'm gonna skip through some of them. Now we should be able to run our application and everything should be working fine. So let's go ahead and maybe stop the application and run it again, which I don't think we actually need. But anyway, let's do that. Let's press I. And here we have our application is running. Perfect. So now that was the installation. Let's go to the UI components overview. And this is going to be a very quick way to get started with Streamchat just to see its functionalities. After that, we're gonna replace and make all of this more stable or more scalable. So let's go into the UI components overview, or maybe I'm going to do a git add now. Git commit install Streamchat SDK, so that if something goes wrong, we can go back. And yeah, overview. Let's go ahead. First things first, we need to create a chat client. Let's do that inside our home layout. I'm not going to do it in the root layout, just because in the root layout, I'm not yet sure if a user is authenticated or not. That's why we have a home and the home layout, where I know for sure that the user here is going to be already authenticated. So open home layout, and here we're going to set up and configure Streamchat. First step is to import Streamchat from Streamchat. Let's import it here at the top. Then we're gonna have to create a client using streamchat.getInstance, and here we need to specify the API key. The API key, we're gonna take it from the dashboard, and it's going to be in the overview key. Here you have it, app access key. Let's copy it and let's add it here. This is a public key, so it's safe to share it and include it in your source code or in the client-side application. For secret keys, we're gonna talk later where we need them. Now let's go back to the documentation, and we see that we need to connect a user. So connecting a user is how we create the connection between the user and Streamchat. It's going to create a new user if it doesn't exist, or it's going to connect with an existing one. Where are we gonna do that? Let's do that in a use effect when this component mounts. So use effect. Let's define this connect function, which is going to be an async function, and let's call connect right away. So connecting to Streamchat is going to be done in the following way. Client connect user, we give here the ID, name, and an image or other information about the user, and then we need to also give here a user token. Right away we see an error. We see that the user token, there is something wrong with the user token. That's because at this moment we don't yet have a user token. This user, for now, as we are still in development, what we can do is we can go ahead and go into the Streamchat. Under the overview of chat messaging, if I go to our authentication, we're gonna be able to disable auth checks, and this will allow us to use development tokens. Tokens that are generated without having a backend, because later we're gonna generate this token on our backend to make it secure. For now, we're gonna do, how's it called, development tokens. I'm gonna go in the overview. Let me go into the documentation to find that development token under React Native client, in client and users, token and authentication. We see that we can developer tokens here. Here, client.dev token. So it's going to be client.dev token, and here we need to provide the same ID as our user ID. That's how Streamchat understands that, hey, this user that claims that he is Jim is actually that user, because we know that there was a token signed by the server. So we have the same data. So just like that, if I reload, everything should be working fine. And whenever we connect things, we should also disconnect it, but we're gonna cover it a bit later. Let's go back to the overview. We're gonna cover client disconnect a bit later. For now, we just want to see something on the screen. For now, we need to create our first channel, and a channel is where conversations are happening. It can be one-on-one, it can be multiple users. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new channel right after connecting the user. So after connecting the user, also in this connect method, I'm going to create a channel of type messaging with a ID the park and the name the park. Now to actually create that channel, we're gonna do channel dot create, or actually channel dot watch, which will create and watch that channel. So if I reload now, nothing happens, but if we go to the Streamchat dashboard under chat messaging and under Explorer, we now will be able to see a user. This is the admin, and the second one is the user that we connected with, and a channel called the park. So now we know that we actually connected correctly with the user and created and joined this channel also correct. Once the channel is actually created, we can comment out this code because we don't want to create it over and over again. Once we know that it's here, later we're going to automatically be able to fetch it. And also in this video, we're gonna see how we can create channel with specific users. What's next? Next, let's go into the overview. And we see that, yeah, we get into configuring our UI. Our user is connected, our basic channel is created where we can exchange messages. It's time to render something on the screen. The first component that we need to render is this overlay provider. So we're going to render them here. And as I said, the first one should be the overlay provider. Overlay provider from Streamchat Expo, like this. And inside there, we're gonna have a slot. Overlay provider comes from Streamchat Expo, and it's used for all the overlays in our application. For example, message reaction is an overlay, or full screen images is an overlay. So that's why the overlay provider should be rendered as close to the root of our application as possible. Then we need to render the chat client. So the chat client is another component imported from Streamchat Expo, and it's the provider that gives the rest of the components access to our client. And our client is this one. Client. What you don't like there? Unexpected. Oh, I don't have, yeah. So chat imported also from Streamchat Expo is providing the client. Now reload, everything is working fine. So that's it from that, let's say, global configuration. This should be configured globally. And then the rest of the things are depending on the screen that we are on. For example, if I go to the tabs index, this is our main tab, and that's where I want to display the list of channels. To render a list of channels, it's as simple as rendering channel list like this, which is imported from Streamchat Expo. And just like that, we have the channel called the park that we created previously and that we have here in the Explorer, just by rendering a component channel list like this. Perfect. That's as easy as it can get. Now, when we press on this channel, we can define what should happen by having here on channel, on select, on channel, what? Let's see. Channel list. On select. So we can have here on select, which will give us the channel, And we can store, for example, in a state. So const state channel, set channel, equal use state, and nothing. And when we select a channel from here, when we press on it, let's set it in state, set channel, channel. Now we can check here. If there is a channel, then we want to render something else. We want to render actually the channel component. Channel should be imported from Streamchat Expo. It needs to know what channel are we rendering. But again, this is nothing in terms of UI, because if now I'm going to go ahead and press on the channel, nothing happens. Why? If channel, return channel. Const console log channel. It's not setting it up there. If I press, no, it's not. Why? On select, set channel. Channel list. Maybe it's not on select. Channel list. Channel list on select. Yeah, I know that this should be typed as a channel, but I don't have time to type it properly. I will import the channel type from Streamchat and call it channel type. And if I press on it, something is wrong. Oh, okay, now it works. Probably I should have just reloaded it, because we don't even need the type for now. Don't worry, we're gonna change the way it works. So now if I press, yeah, it renders this channel because we selected it. But this is just a data provider, like it's not anything that renders on the UI. On the UI, there are other components such as message list. Message list, also imported from Streamchat. So if I go to the here, we're not gonna see any messages. But if I render there the input, message input, we should see at the bottom the message input, and I can say hello. If I send, it's going to appear here in the message list. And I can do more, and so on. I can reload the application. And as you can see, yeah, in the list, we have a list. It shows the name, it shows what was the last message, when it was. I go there, and it moves into this channel display. But the thing is that I want a separate page for the channel itself. I don't want it to be on the same page as the channel list. Moreover, I don't even want the channel, when we are typing a message, to be part of a bottom tab navigator. I want it to be outside. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into the home, and inside the home, I'm going to create a folder called channel. This channel, let's start by having it index.tsx, and it will do export default function channel screen, return, I don't know, a text channel. This text should be imported from React Native. So let's go ahead and import text from React Native. by the way, if I forgot to mention something, and I'm not sure why I didn't get that error. If you have some issues after installing the stream dependencies, something related to SVG, try to do, after everything, try to run npm install -- legacy peer deps. That's because there is two dependencies on the SVG, React Native SVG, and without legacy peer deps, they are conflicting. So yeah, if that's a good note, if you're having issues with some dependencies. Now back to our channel screen. So having the channel screen, from the tabs index, from the channel list, when we select a channel, I'm going to get the channel itself. I will want to redirect to that screen by using router from Expo router and doing router.push. I'm gonna push to the /channel, which is going to navigate me to, well, it shouldn't be here. You should reload. If I do that, we are redirected to the channel screen. The channel itself, let's create an index, a layout file, because I want to put different screens from the channel in a stack. So export default function channel stack is going to return a stack. Now when we navigate to that channel, come on. Now when we navigate to that channel, we have the header channel. Perfect, but we need to send an ID to that channel, right? To be able to fetch it and render it on the screen. To send the ID, we're gonna use a dynamic path parameter. So in the index, on the index.tsx from channel folder, I'm going to rename it to actually contain here an ID, but I'm gonna call it CID. This is a bit different because this is complete ID, and I'm gonna show you what that means. But first, let me go ahead and go back to tabs index in the channel list and say that when navigating to that channel, I want to add or to append at the end the channel ID. So it's going to be /channel dot not ID but CID. CID stands for complete ID. And on these main tabs, when we have channel list, we no longer need this one. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take them later from here. But the CID, if we look in the channels, the channel has an ID, the park, and it has the CID, which is composed out of the type messaging and then double dots and the ID. And when fetching channels, it's better to use CID. Both of them would work, but CID will be much more performant. So back on our channel CID, we need to get access to that CID. So let's do CID equal use local search parameters. We are going to fetch and then store the channel in a state variable, set channel, use state. Here we can actually type it properly. So I'm going to import channel as channel type from Streamchat. Should be Streamchat without Expo. Yeah. So I'm gonna type our state using this channel type, or null, because initially it's going to be null. Now here I'm gonna say if channel, come on, is null, I'm going to display an activity indicator, which will show a spinner. Otherwise, what I want to render here is what I was rendering in our channel list, the channel with a message list and the input. So I'm going to copy this one from here to our channel detail screen. We need to import these UI components. And back from the index screen, we no longer need to do this. The index screen is only responsible for rendering a list of channels. That's it. Now, if I'm going to press on it, we're going to go to the channel list and we're going to see the activity indicator there. The activity indicator is there because in the CID, we didn't fetch the channel yet. To fetch the channel, we're going to use the client and we're going to send some requests there. So from the documentation, go to the React, but not to the UI components, but directly to the client. Here, we're going to see channels and we see how we can query channels. We can query channels by using the chat query channel, and we can send some filters there. So, as I said, we first need the client. Where do we get the client from? Well, the Streamchat client. We can get it in a similar way as we got it in the home layout using Streamchat get instance and then the API. That's not going to be a problem because this get instance is a singleton, which means that it's not going to initialize a new client. It's going to give access to the same one. But I think it's going to be weird to always call this message, to always call this one. So we can also take it from a data provider called, using a hook called use chat context. So taking from the chat context, we can take the client. Now, having this client and having this ID, we can fetch the channel using this ID. So let's fetch it in a use effect. And we need to fetch it whenever the CID changes. Whenever the ID of a channel changes, we need to fetch it. So fetch channel equal to an async function that we call it right away. And to fetch it, I don't know, response equal await, we're going to use client dot fetch or query channels. And here we need to specify the filter. The filter is an object where we can specify, we can filter by ID, we can filter by the members, but I want to filter it directly by the CID. And I want to say to filter with an equal, like CID is equal to my CID. So that's why it should be CID, double.CID. And because they have the same name, I can use it right away here. And to get rid of this Typescript error, we can type the local search parameters saying that CID is a string. Now let's check console log a response. So if I see, actually something is there. I'm not sure what's there, but I believe that this is an array of channels. Like if I check, it's an array. So most probably my item is the item at position 0. So I'm gonna set a channel with a response at position 0. Or it can also be channels at position 0. So now if I'm gonna press on this one, it loads and it correctly loads the channel with that ID. And from here, I'm not sure why I cannot go back, but we're gonna figure that out in a second. So we can send things here. It sends to the channel, perfect. And I think I can go back just by doing that, no? No. But the good thing is that now we have a list of channels and we also have a channel itself. To be able to go back, I need a stack navigator that has both tabs and the channel. And that stack navigator is this layout. This layout that has both channel and tabs, which will allow me to move back from the channel to the tabs, it's rendering a slot, but I want to render a stack. So now it has this back button. And what I can do is, I think I'm going to say, hey, on the tabs, don't render the header. So using stack.screen name for the tabs, using options, I'm gonna say header shown is false to hide it. Come on, false. Now we don't have a header there, but we still have a header here. But on this end, I want to hide the header from the channel layout, which is a stack. For now, I can go ahead and do stack. Let's go ahead and do stack.screen with a name. The name should be the name of a file. So CID. The screen with a name CID should not have a header because it already has it from the previous stack navigator. So options, header shown, false, and I expect to hide this, yes. And it keeps the previous one. Perfect. Now it looks much better. Channel. Nice, nice. Okay. I don't even, like on the channel itself, I think we don't even need the layout, you know? Because the channel is not gonna have a lot of, but we can keep it. Maybe later if we're gonna have anything more, it can be ready. But at this moment, channel doesn't have subfolders, let's say. Okay, so that was the basic setup of Streamchat. How easy was that? It took us a little bit of time just because we set everything up in different components. But in fact, everything that we did was we created the Streamchat client using our API key. Then we connected our user to Streamchat. And we rendered the provider and the chat to wrap around our whole application. Then on one screen, we used the channel list component, which is the built-in component from Streamchat. And on another screen, we fetched the channel and we rendered it together with a message list and together with the message input. Maybe you can even do here, I don't know, like on the message input, a safe area view so that it doesn't render below, but the safe area view with edges only on the bottom. So now the message input renders correctly. Perfect. With that, we already have a basic chatting application, but it's not perfect yet. We need to make a lot of things dynamic so it will work with multiple users as well. So let me go ahead and do git add, git commit, setup Streamchat UI, just like that. Let me check quickly. Shivan, please do not spam. I will get back and look at the messages. And yeah, just to answer your question, we're gonna, if we have time, by the way, because we need to finish it. We are 1 hour in. We still have 3 hours. If we have time, we're gonna cover the call keep. Hello from Kenya. Hello. Дмитрий. Нет, я не русский, но говорю по-русски. Hello from Russia. Hello. This class will be saved on YouTube. Yes, we're gonna save this one on YouTube. Is Streamchat for free? Streamchat has a free plan and has a maker account, which will give you free access to it as long as you have less than 100K revenue, 100,000 USD revenue per year. Bright Great is saying my love for React Native is because of you. Thank you very much. Okay, so hello from Morocco. Hello, hello. I've been once to Morocco. I've been to Casablanca. Whew, okay, so quite intense so far. I hope you are following along, and we are continuing. The first step that I want to do to improve a little bit our setup, let me just check here in the overview, message list, message input, and we didn't cover the thread. You can check out how to render a thread. It's as easy as rendering a channel or a message. So on the channel screen, you can have in the message list on thread selected, save it in a state, and then render a thread component. I'm not gonna do that now because we have to move, but that's everything from the overview. Let's go ahead and, as I said, clean up a little bit and make this setup more scalable. At the moment, it's using a lot of hard-coded data. And what I want to do first is from the home layout, where we do the connection to Streamchat, I want to extract it into a separate provider. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create in source a folder called providers. And the first provider is going to be chatprovider.tsx. This component is going to be responsible for connecting the user and rendering these two things, the overlay and the chat. So let's export default function chat provider and return something on the screen. Because this chat provider is going to be used and is going to render the chat and overlay, we need our screens to be inside that, render inside the chat provider. That's why we're gonna receive a special prop called children. We can type this one with helper props with children imported from React. And we can start simply by rendering children here. Children. Now, if I take this chat provider and go back to the layout inside home layout, and if I will render it here as chat provider and wrap it around our stack, then this stack is going to be sent to the chat provider through the children and will be rendered here. Because if we don't render the children, we're not going to see anything. So that's why we have children here. Now that we have this set up, we're going to move from the layout, the logic of connecting. So let's copy the whole use effect here and let's move it to the chat provider. make sure to import everything necessary, like the use effect. We need client, which we got using the Streamchat get instance to the chat provider here. Streamchat should be imported. I'm gonna copy all the imports and delete the ones that I don't need here, such as slot and stack. I don't need it here. Now that we did the connection, let's make sure to render the overlay provider and the chat. So I'm gonna copy these two. I'm actually gonna cut them from here because we no longer need them in our layout. They will be handled in the chat provider. So going to the chat provider, I'm going to wrap these two around the children, and in a moment it will all make sense, just like this. So we have an overlay provider, we have a chat using the client, and then and only then we have a children. So now everything works as it was working before, but it's not handled in a layout, which actually can be even cleaner. It's handled in a separate file, chat provider. Props with children should be from there. Okay. Next step to improve here is going to be to use environment variables for the API key. So now Expo is supporting environment variables, and for the environment variables that we need to have access in our client code, they must be prefixed with expo_public, and then the name can be stream API key, which is equal to this value. I don't think we need even these ones. Now we can access it in the chat provider. Instead of hard coding it here, we can access it as process.env dot and then the name expo public stream API key. Now I don't think it's going to be available there, or it is, but if it's not, make sure to restart the server, and then your environment variables will be picked up by Expo. Reload. Okay, so everything is good. Another thing that I want to do is I want to prevent our application from being rendered as long as the user has not connected yet. For that, in this function, I'm going to have a state variable is ready, set is ready, use state, false. Initially it's going to be false, and we're gonna make it true only after await client connect user. So only after this, we're gonna do set is ready to true, only when the user is connected. Now, in order to prevent the application from being rendered, as long as the user is not connected yet, we can check here. If it's not ready, then return an activity indicator from React Native. Otherwise, return the chat with the rest of the things. Okay, that's one thing. So now we're gonna see a loading indicator for a bit, which is at the top. You can also adjust it by styling it properly to have it in the middle of the screen. I'm not gonna waste time on that, but with a view, with flex one and a line item center wrapped around activity indicator, you're gonna see it in the center. What I want to also do is as you can see, we sometimes see these warnings. Consecutive calls to connect user is detected. This should never happen, because whenever we call connect user, we are opening we are opening a connection with a server. So whenever opening a connection with a server, we need to make sure to clean it up when we unmount or when the application closes or reloads. For that reason, in the use effect that we have here, which at the moment, I made a huge mistake. As you can see, my use effect does not have dependencies. And you know what that means? That means that whenever this re-renders, it will reconnect. So that's why whenever we are changing the screen, we see this error. What in fact should happen is we should have an empty dependency list to connect here only when the component mounts. But even in that case, we need to make sure that from this use effect, we return a function. And this function, when you return a function from use effect, this is called the cleanup function, which should be used to clear the connections. What we can do here is we can call client.disconnectUser, and then we can set is ready to false. So now whenever we unmount the component, we make sure to disconnect the user. Everything works nicely. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So with this approach, it's much better. First of all, we don't render the application if it's not ready yet. Then we disconnect users whenever we unmount our chat provider. And yeah, that's good. Let's go ahead and commit this one. Git add, git commit -m, Streamchat provider. Perfect. Okay, so the next step is going to be to properly authenticate and connect users. Because right now we are hard coding here the ID, the name, and the image of a user, which means that this application is only going to be able to use as Jim and as the same user. In order to allow different users to use the application, usually you have your own backend. And Streamchat is made in a way to be able to easily integrate with any backend that you already have. And that's done by being able to send the ID here, and also by being able to authenticate the users from your server with a custom token. At the moment we use dev tokens, in a moment we're gonna generate on the server so that it's securely connected with our server. So in order, like in a lot of cases, you would integrate chatting in your application where you have other features. So you would have a database, you'd have already the authentication there. So the only thing that you need to do is use the same ID of a user from your system and you send it here to the Streamchat. And this way, having the same ID both in your system and on Streamchat, you're gonna connect them together. So whenever the user authenticates with his account, he's connected to the same account on Streamchat. So for that, we actually first of all need to have a way to sign up and authentication in our application. To do that, we're gonna use Supabase. Supabase is a backend as a service tool that allows us to easily build backends on top of Postgres in the cloud. So sign up, they have the free tier, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project here. Let's choose the organization, let's call it, how's it called? Telegram. Let's choose the database password. I'm going to generate one and make sure to copy it. We're gonna need it in a moment. Let me add it somewhere. It should be here. Hopefully I'm not gonna lose it, but yeah. And just like that, let's press create new project and Supabase will start initializing our project. By default, Supabase project is providing us with a Postgres database, and automatically it has the table set up for authentication. That means that we can integrate authentication right away. So while the project is setting up, let's go ahead and open Supabase docs. I'm going to go into the docs and the getting started. In there, I'm going to find the Expo, where is it? Expo React Native. I'm going to follow this tutorial because it shows how to set everything up and also how to have like a profile to be able to update the profile picture and so on. So let's go ahead and follow it step by step. The first step was to create a new project. We already did that. Then we need to set the database schema. The database schema, they have a starter. So after our project is initialized, let's go to the SQL editor. Because right now, if I go to tables, we do not have any tables yet. Anyway, we still have the auth schema with all the authentication enabled, but we as users cannot change anything there. It's used only for authentication. For our public schema where we can do changes like updating profile pictures and so on, we are using the public schema. If we go to the SQL editor and choose the quick starts, here are some templates for some database schemas to get started. One very helpful one is the user management starter. If we open it up, what this one is going to do is, as you can see, it's going to first create a table profiles that will connect the profile information with the authenticated user. It will have username, avatar, and so on. Then it will also create a function that automatically creates profiles when a user signs up. You don't have to understand all of this. Like, we're just gonna run it and that's it. I just want to give you a short intro. It will also set up the storage for our avatars. And that's it. That's everything that it will do. So let's do run selected. Oh no, avatars. Why? Table editor, storage, database, SQL editor. Let's try again. Maybe I did a mistake. Quick starts, user management starter, and then run. Okay, it worked. I think I did a mistake. Yeah, I changed something here. Anyway, now if we go to the table editor under the public, we see profiles, which is the table where we're going to keep profile information, such as full name, username, avatar, and so on. And we also have in the storage a table called avatars. Perfect. Let's go into the documentation and see what do we have to do. The next step, it says, I'm going to come back to this, to the local database. Now let's scroll down until we see install additional dependencies. Let's go ahead and copy this command in our project, open the terminal, and let's paste the npx expo install. This will install some Supabase dependencies, which will allow us to interact with Supabase. Now we need to initialize the Supabase client. So for that, we're going to create a new folder in our source directory called lib. Inside the lib, we're going to create a file called supabase.ts. And in supabase.ts, we're going to create the Supabase client using the following code. For the Supabase URL, let's also use environment variables. Supabase URL, let's call them like this, process.env and instead of your React Native, we're gonna call it expo public, because remember, public environment variables that should be available in your client-side code should be prefixed with Expo public. So now we have two variables, Expo public URA and Expo public Supabase anonymous key. These are two variables that we're gonna set in our environment. This one and this one. These are two variables that are public, and we can get them if we go to the dashboard on Supabase project settings, and under the API, configuration API, first we see the project URL. Let's copy it, and this is our first field, Supabase public URL. Now for the anon key, if we scroll down, we see project API keys. This is the anon, the public key, which we're gonna provide here. So just like that environment variable setup, we have them here, and we are creating a Supabase client that we're gonna be able to use in the next step to authenticate, query the database, and so on. Let's go back to the documentation, and we will set up a login component. Our login component is going to be an actual screen inside application, inside the auth directory. That's why we created it there. So let's call it login.tsx, and let's paste everything that they suggest here. I'm gonna walk you through, but we don't have the time to build it ourselves. So this file, we need to adjust the way we import the Supabase library, because we need to go 2 times in the upper directory and only then go into the lib. Now this off-screen, let's see what's going on there. Now this off-screen, let me actually redirect there so that we can see properly. And I can explain like what's going on there. So from the index, instead of redirecting to the home tabs, I'm going to redirect to off/login. If I reload, we should be redirected here. So if we look at this screen, what do we have here? We have 2 states, email and password, for the 2 fields that we have here. Then from the rendering side, we have an input for our email, we have an input for our password, and 2 buttons, sign in and sign up. These 2 functions are implemented above. So for the sign up, what it is doing, it's using the Supabase client, supabase.auth.signup, and using the email and password that the users put here. It's creating a new account. For the sign in, it's doing the same, but it's calling sign in with password. By default, Supabase the users will have to confirm their email address, but as we are in development, we can disable that by going to our Supabase authentication providers. And under email, let's deselect confirm email here and then press save. Just like that, we're going to be able to sign up without confirming our emails. So let's see how that would happen. If I go here and say vadim at notjust.dev and a simple password, press sign up, nothing seems to happen. But if I go under our authentication users, we see a new user being created. Also, if I go into the table editor, for that user, a profile information, a profile row was added here, where later we can adjust and change any data. Perfect. What I like about Supabase is that everything is in the same database, both authentication data and your data, like everything is here. You can go into the auth, you can go into the users, and you're gonna see this information here. The authentication, the role, the email, encrypted, and so on. Perfect. And if I press again sign up, it's going to say, please check your inbox for email verification, because there would be an error, like there is this error. Okay. But why are we not redirected anywhere? Well, that's what we're gonna do now. In order to redirect, I don't want to manually redirect when we press sign in or sign up. I'll implement a much more robust system of navigation by guarding routes. What that means is I'm going to, in the home layout, I'm going to check, hey, if you're not authenticated, redirect to the authentication screen, which means that you should not be able to see any screens here. The same on the authentication. I'm going to define a layout here, layout.tsx, and here I'm going to do export default function of layout. I'm gonna check if you're not, if you are authenticated, you should not be here, you should be on the home screens. But for now, I'm going to simply return as the slot or the stack maybe. In order to power this information, we're gonna need easy access to information about user. For that reason, let's go ahead in the providers, create another context provider called offProvider.tsx. This offProvider is going to be export default function of provider. As other providers, we're gonna wrap it around different components. So for that reason, we're gonna receive children, props with children, and we need to return or render them here by wrapping them inside some context providers, which we're gonna do in a second. The context provider that we're gonna use is a context provider that we have to create ourselves. We can create it using, let's call it offProvider. Of context, better name, is going to be created using create context from React. Now, in order to render this of context, we're going to render it as offContext.provider, and that's how we're going to send values to all the children components. Now, what information should this context provider have? Information about the user and the session, whether it's authenticated or not. If I go back to the user management here, there will be, the next is the account page, which we're gonna come back a bit later. But next, there should be, in this app.tsx, which we're gonna do in our context provider, they show how we can get information about the session and how to subscribe to session updates. That's exactly what we need. So let's copy this use effect together with a use state in our offProvider. So let's import use state from React. Let's import session from where is it imported from? Import session from Supabase. Okay. Use effect from React. Supabase from our library, from our client that we created there. And yeah, in a use effect, when this offProvider mounts, we are fetching the session and we are setting it in state. And also we are subscribing to updates. For example, if a user will sign out, will log out or log in, this session will automatically be updated. Now we can export this session from the context provider like this. But we can also export here the user directly using user is going to be session dot or question mark dot user, because the session can also be null. And this is going to be our user. If you want to have like proper typings, we should provide here the type for our off context. which will contain a session of type session or null if the user is not authenticated. And it will also export a user of type user. So let's do user or null. Now we're going to type this create context using a generic, and we're going to say, hey, you should be of type of context. And just because we have this type, we need to provide null values here as default. And just like that, we are exporting these values correctly. The last step when I'm defining a context provider is I also like to export a custom hook that will give me access to this context. So that's going to be like a shortcut. And I'm doing that using export const. The custom hook is named starting with use. So I'm going to call it use of. And the custom hook is a function that when executed will call use context with a value of our of context. This way, this use of is a shortcut to use context of context. Now, because we are exporting it from here, we can import it in the two layout that we have. In this one, we're gonna do const user equal use of. In our of layout, we're gonna check the user, and we're gonna say, hey, if there is a user authenticated, if there is a user, then you should not be on the off screens. You should be redirected to maybe simply if I redirect to the slash, which is a we can redirect to home. This is the href equal. And it's not going there. I'm not sure why. If user, then redirect. So if now I do a sign in, not redirected. Let's do a console log user to see what's going on here. The console log user says that it's null. In the auth provider, user session.user. What's our session? Console log. Oh, you know what? We never render the auth provider. The auth provider should be rendered in the actual root layout here. So we're gonna do auth provider. I'm gonna wrap it around the slot. That's why we didn't have access to it. Now we are automatically redirected here. Now on the profile screen, if I'm going to go ahead and profile, but I'm gonna add it a bit later. The thing is that the same thing as we are doing here in the layout of our off screens, by checking if a user is defined, a redirect to home screen, the same thing should happen in our home layout. But here, we're gonna also import the user from our provider, and we're gonna check if there is no user, you should not be here. You should go to the off screen. So now we're gonna check it in the next step when we implement the profile screen to be able to sign out. In the profile screen, I'm going to also implement it based on the example shared by Supabase. There is this chapter account page. So let's copy the account page. Under the tabs profile, close others. Let's paste everything here. So replace what we have with this one. I'm going to call this profile screen. Profile screen. The library folder is somewhere else. I think it's 3 times up, and then Supabase. So now if I go to profile, it still renders this one because it's cache. It's 1F, right? Profile. So if I go to profile, it will crash. You know why it might crash? Because it expects the session to come from a property, but it's never going to come from a property because we are using it in an Expo router. However, we can take that session using the same use of hook that we implemented previously. Use of hook from our custom providers. We exported the session from there. So we can import it, and that's it. Okay, and now if I'm gonna go here, let's see what's going on. If I go to profile, everything is working fine. What I want to test first is the sign out button, and if I do sign out, we see something. We see that from our home layout, when we do redirect to off, it doesn't want. Maybe I need to redirect from off/login. Now we are opening the application. We're on the login screen. I can log in. Sign in. We are redirected here. I can go to profile, sign out, and we are back to the login screen without the ability even to go back. So if I refresh, I'm still signed out. So just like that, we have a proper authentication system with proper guarding of authenticated screens and the screens that the user should be authenticated. Now let's quickly have a look of what's happening here in the profile screen. In the profile screen, we have some fields. What I'm thinking is, you see in our profile table editor, in the profile, we have, yes, we have a username, but we also have a full name. And I'm actually more interested in the full name than the username. Or maybe we can leave a full name, but also add username. Yeah, I think we're gonna simply add username to all of this list, because let's just double check if it works to update it. So if I do Vadim as the username and press update, if I look in our database for the username, it updated to Vadim. So this code works to update our profile. But as I said, I want to also update the full name. So whenever we see username, let's do the same for, how's it called? Full name, right? Full name. So full name, set full name. Then in the get profile, when we fetch the profile, let's make sure to also select the full underscore name. That's the column name. Now using this data, we're gonna update our full name from state using data.fullname. Then in the update profile, we're going to receive username, website, avatar, and also full underscore name. Full underscore name should be string. Now in the updates, let's add here full name, full underscore name, make sure it's underscore, and it's going to update the profile there. Now moving on, we simply need an input. Probably I would even put it above a username. So this view I'm going to copy and put it above and call it full name. The value is going to be full name, and it's going to set full name with updated text. Let's try it out. So it's Vadim Savin update. If I go here, I expect the full name to be updated. It's not yet. Yeah, it's not updated yet. Why? Oh, yeah, I know. Here on press, we call update profile, but we didn't specify the full name using the value from our state. So now if I'm gonna do Savin update, I go back, I'll see it here as full name in the database. Perfect. So that's our authentication. Git add, git commit -m, Supabase authentication. Perfect. How are you guys doing so far? Are you following along? Is this running on the new architecture? No, this one, no. Amy is saying, this is really cool to finally get a chance to see a live video of you in real time. You're doing legendary job. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Do you stream on Twitch? No. But are you interested in, are you watching Twitch? Let's check here with a poll. I'm interested. Am saying I'm watching this video while I build my first APK for the Google Play console, which is ironic because I learned React Native with your videos. Oh, that's so nice. Good luck with publishing your application. Back to our project, there is one more thing that I think is going to make a lot of difference if we implement. The possibility to upload a profile picture, because that will change a lot of the experience on Streamchat if we have avatars. So also in the Supabase getting started, there will be bonus profile photos. We have already configured the storage and the avatars folder. The only thing that we need to do is install the Expo image picker. So let's copy this one and install it in our project. After learning JavaScript, how to get into with React Native. You can watch any of our tutorials. That's going to help you. That's exactly what we do on this channel. So the next step is going to be to create the upload widget, which should be in components called avatar. Let's go ahead and create this file first. In our components, let's call a file called avatar.tsx. In this avatar, I'm going to copy paste the code provided by Supabase. And what this one is doing is it's rendering the avatar URL, or it's rendering a button to upload an avatar. I'm going to show you in a moment how it does the uploading. But the last step is we need to render this, this widget inside the body of our profile screen. So let's go into the Home tabs profile, and at the top, before even the email in this container, let's render a view with the avatar imported not from Streamchat Expo but from our components. with this URL, and whenever we finish the upload, we will update profile, but here we updated it and we need to also set the full name equal to full name. So if now I go to profile page, we don't have any avatars yet, but we can press upload. It will open up the image picker. I can select an image from here. I can choose it. It's going to upload the image and it's going to automatically save it on my profile. And it should render here. Perfect. And now if I'm gonna go to my Supabase storage, in the avatars, we're gonna see this newly created file. What you can do, maybe style it here to do, what is the background color here? If I do background color red, okay. I think I can do align items center and it will put it on the center. And also, as you can see, this page is not scrollable. I'll switch the root container to a scroll view imported from React Native and make sure that the last closing component is also a scroll view. And now if I go here, we're going to be able to scroll to get to the sign out button. Okay, perfect. So profile page is done together with avatars. You can look at this component avatar to see how it does the image upload. It's using the image picker, the Expo image picker, to select an image, and then based on that image, it will take the URI, it will create an array buffer, and then it will use supabase.storage. We'll specify the bucket where we want to upload it, and we'll upload the file on this path using the array bucket that we created, read from the image that we picked. And that's it. Then we'll call the onUpload and it will save the URL on the database layer. On the database layer in the profile, if we go, avatar URL has only the file name. Okay, perfect. Let me go ahead and do git add git commit -m profile picture. Profile picture. And why did we do that? Well, we did that in order to have different accounts, and we need that in order to authenticate also users on Streamchat. So they all have a different account, a different image, avatar, and so on. In the chat provider, where we do client.connect, we are using hard-coded data. But now we already have access to the user using the use of hook that we defined in our auth provider. If I do a console log here for the user, it should always be defined because the chat provider is rendered. Yeah, it's provided. So for the ID, what we can do is use user.id. For the name, we can use, at this moment we cannot use we don't have easy access to the full name because the full name is not on the user inside our auth provider, but yeah, this session user, this is the authentication user. So that authentication user is stored in the auth users. So it's coming from the authentication service. It has email and a lot of information about password, recovery, and so on. But the name is on the public profile page, which has the same ID, but we need to query it. So what I suggest us doing is in the auth provider, not only to keep track of a session, but also to keep track of the profile, set profile, use state, and let's fetch the profile in another use effect. Use effect. We're gonna fetch the profile only when the user changes. Only when session (user) changes. We're gonna check if session (user) is not defined, then that means that the user is not yet authenticated, so we cannot query the profile, his profile. That's why we're gonna return. Otherwise, let's define the function fetch profile, which is going to be an async function, and let's call it right away. Fetch profile. How do we fetch the user profile? Knowing his ID, because session user.id is going to be the same as profile ID. Well, we can go to the table profiles, and there is this button called API docs. In the API docs, it easily shows you with ability to copy paste how we can get and filter profiles. So come on. To filter this one, insert. Okay. So it's going to be everything starting with select and then a filter applied later. Let's start with this, not with this. So we are going to use Supabase client. From profiles table, we're going to select all the columns, and we are only interested in the profile that has the ID equal to our session.user.id. And then we can even do single here to return the first item, one single item. And here is going to be data. I'm not going to even rename it. And what we can do with the data is we can set it in state. Set profile, not profile, but data. Let's try to do a console log profile to make sure that we are fetching it correctly. And I see the avatar URL, full name, Vadim. So that means that, yeah, we are doing it correctly. I'm going to go ahead and add to my auth context one more variable called profile. And at this moment, it's going to be of type any. But in a second, we're going to see how we can properly type it. Come on. So profile any or null. Can you do that? So the profile is going to be null. And here we're going to, for the value, we need to make sure to export it as profile. Now from the chat provider, from the auth, not only we can take the user, but also the profile. And actually, I'm going to only use the profile because user ID is the same value as profile ID because that's how they are connected. And it's going to be the same value as profile.id, the same value as the Streamchat ID. For the name, we can say profile dot full name, if I'm not mistaken. And for the image, we're going to cover it later. But for the dev token, as I said, this value should be exactly as this one. We're still using dev tokens. In the next step, we're going to generate them on the server. And one more thing, in this use effect now, the use effect depends on the profile and depends on profile being there. So I'm going to check at the top, hey, if there is no profile, then return I don't want anything. And in the auth provider, let me think about one use case. What if we log out and we do set session, the session changes. I think when we, if session is different than user, I think it's smart to reset profile to null, because if you fetch the profile and then log out, I want to reset it. So I think it's going to happen here. Anyway, back to chat provider. What's happening here? Let's reload. Something was not correct there. An error occurred while getting settings. Both secret and client are not set. Wasn't called. What's in the connect? Let's do console log profile.id. Profile.id was this one. Profile.full name. If profile is not there, return. Both secret and user tokens are not set. Either wasn't called or client disconnect was called. Or client disconnect was called. I might know why this is happening, because profile initially is undefined, then it becomes active. So to prevent this kind of error, I'm going to go in the auth provider. Let me double check if I use the providers correctly. In the application layout, I use the auth provider. This one should render profile and so on. Then in home layout, chat provider. And then in the chat provider, but I need to disconnect only if client is connected. How to see if it's connected or not? State. No. Maybe only if client is ready, then disconnected, because I think like it's trying to disconnect when it shouldn't. So if I reload now, consecutive calls to connect users is ideally. Why consecutive calls? It shouldn't go there. Profile. Is really profile like, let's try console log, use effect, and then profile. I just want to see how often it's being called. Reload. Use effect, it has value. But first one, use effect, null, use effect, something, then again. Why again? Let me maybe reload it only when profile.id changes. Reload. Use effect null, and then the third time it's not going to be called because the ID doesn't change, even though we are doing some changes there, but the ID is the same, so we don't need to reconnect. And that's good. That's we connected our user. If we look at the Streamchat now, under the users, we see that we have a newly created user. If we copy this ID, we're gonna see that it's exactly the ID of our user here in the profiles, and also our user in our authentication system, user ID. So, perfect. Yeah, that was it. The profile ID here when connecting the client. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and do a git add, because this is the connect user to Supabase user to Streamchat user. Now I'm gonna show you this problem. The query channel failed, and it says that it failed to query a channel because we are not a member of that channel. Well, that's because in the previously created channel, the park that was created by a different user, we are not a member of that channel, so we cannot render it. That's happening because we, on our chats list in the home tabs index, in the channel list, we didn't provide any filters. One filter that we can provide here is going to be, hey, I want members. I want me to be a member of that channel. To get my user ID, well, let me check. Yeah, the filter is an object where we can use different fields, for example, members. And the way we filter it looks very similar to how we filter in MongoDB. For example, using the equal sign, we can check if members is equal to something. But that's an array, so we're gonna use the in, where we're gonna check if one of ID that we have here is part of a member in the channel list that we're filtering. So here we need to provide our ID. Where do we get it from? Because on Stream and on Supabase and in the authentication, the ID of a user is the same. We can use the data from useOf hook from user here and send it to the filter. And just like that, we are filtering correctly. We don't have any errors yet anymore, because we are filtering only for the channels where we are a member of. At the moment, we do not have any channels yet, but we're gonna fix that in a second. We're gonna fix that in a second, because I also want to, in the chat provider, when we connect to the user, I want to connect also the image of that user, not this hard-coded one. To get the image of our avatar from storage, in the storage we have avatars, we have an image. First of all, we need the storage, the bucket, to make it public. So let's go to the storage under the avatars. Let's edit the bucket and make it public in order to be able to share these URLs with Streamchat. Now, if I take this get URL, we're going to be able to access the image through this URL. Perfect. How do we do it dynamically? Well, let's check Supabase docs for the storage. I'm going to go to the storage, serving assets. You can access them using this URL, project ID, Supabase, object public bucket asset name. So you can just use this URL, replace these fields. Or you can also use Supabase client and get a public URL like this. I think this is a more correct one, because if this URL something changes there, it's going to also change in the API. So I'm going to copy it from there. I'm going to use Supabase from Supabase client from our library. From the bucket called avatars, because that's our bucket name in our here, avatars. We want to take the public URL based on, we need the name of a file. The name of a file is under profile, so it's going to be profile.avatar, how is it called? Table editor profiles. It's avatar URL, avatar underscore URL. And this one is going to return an object, so I can access data, and that's it. And just like that, we should also have the proper image set to Streamchat. When I connect, it does this connection, it updates the information. And now if I'm gonna go to Streamchat under this user, the image, well, the image is an object. So the data has public URL field. To make it as a string, I'm gonna do data dot public URL like this. So now if I'm gonna reload and go back to stream, the image, if I will refresh, should be just a URL. Yes. And if I copy it to make sure that it's the correct one, yes, indeed it is. So now Streamchat, whenever displaying the user, is going to use the avatar that is coming from Supabase. So that was also connecting the image from Supabase to Streamchat. Git commit -m connect Supabase user avatar to Streamchat. Oh, perfect. And because right now we do not have any chats, how would we start a chat? What I want to do is, this will very much depend on how you want to implement this feature, because you might have an application like a dating application and create chats only when two users are matching. You might create an application like an e-commerce application and only be able to chat with when you are interested in an item. For simplicity reasons, in my application, we're going to be able to initiate a chat with any users that is signed in. Something like, I don't know, Facebook or something like that. You have users, you don't even have to be friends with them. You can initiate a chat with them. For that reason, I need a screen where I want to display a list of users in the application, and from that screen I want to be able to initiate chats with them. That screen, I don't want to be part of a bottom screen here. So for that reason, under the home, not in the tabs, but under home, I'm going to create a new file called users.tsx. Here, let's do export default function users screen. This screen is going to first have a list of users, set users, use state, and initial is going to be empty array. And it will return a flat list from React Native that will render these users, render item. Let's simply render their name in a text. Item dot full, I think, underscore name from the database. So this text also from React Native. Come on. First, let's go ahead and navigate here. What I want to do is I want to add a plus sign and the header here. So from the chat screens, you can navigate directly to these users. So from the tabs index, I want to render an icon in the header. To render an icon in the header, we can do that on this screen by rendering the stack from expo_router.screen, stack.screen, and through options, I can do header right. And here, if we render something, it's going to be rendered in the header. I'm going to go into vector icons and find a plus sign, or maybe users. Yeah, something like that is nice. Let's render it here. And make sure to also import font awesome. And just like that, we have the font awesome 5 icon there. We can display it a little bit smaller with gray, and let's give it some style as well with margin horizontal. Horizontal 10. 15. Okay, that's good. So now in the header we have this icon, which I want to redirect us to our home/users. To make this redirection, I can use the link component from expo_router, and I will wrap it around our font awesome with the href of home/users. And to make sure that we take the styles from here, I'm going to do as child. Now if I press on this icon, we are redirected to the users screen, and I can go back to the tabs. Okay, now that we are on the user screen and we are rendering a flat list, how do we fetch a list of users? Well, we do that. We are going to actually fetch a list of profiles, not users. So we're going to go into the profiles, into the API docs, and here we see How we can read rows? As simple as calling Supabase from profiles and select all the columns. We're gonna call it in a use effect when this component mounts. So let's not forget the dependency list. Fetch users is an async function that will be called right away, fetch users. And inside fetch users, we're gonna copy this command to read rows, profiles, Supabase. Let's make sure to import Supabase from our lib. And these profiles, we're gonna set it in state as users. Set users profiles. And just like that, we have one profile there. I think it would be smart to filter, to fetch all the profiles except ours. So another thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to take the user using the use of hook. As you see, like we use a lot like this use of hook, so that's why it's helpful to have the shortcut. And now I'm going to, after select, I'm going to do not equal, and I'm gonna provide, I want the ID not to be equal to my user.id. This way I'm fetching everyone except me. Exclude me. At this moment we don't see anything here, but if I'm gonna go into the profile and do sign out, and if I'm gonna create a new account, for example, test, sign up, not now, use client disconnect before trying to connect. Why was that issue there? Chat provider media, again a mistake here. Yeah, because I think I didn't disconnected the user there. Profile ID changed. So let's reload. Now if I'm gonna go, I'm with another account and I can even upload a different picture. Say that I am test, my full name is test. Update. It's going to be synchronized only when we connect again. So I'm gonna reload to connect with Stream again and synchronize the name. But we see here the user Vadim, the other user from our application. That's cool. And what we can do, I think, is going to be to render it better. So in the components, I'm going to create a new file, user list item.tsx. And here let's, for the user list item, say that we're going to receive a user and we are going to render his user under dot full name. Let's render this user list item in our user screen in the flat list instead of a text. I'm going to render users list item like this. Let's import components. User list item, and let's send their user our item. User list item. So now if I go here, I still see that, but we can style it a bit better here using a padding, I don't know, padding 10, a background color white, maybe even 15, the text font weight bold. Maybe 600. Okay, that's good. And if there will be more users, I'll need some gap between that. So on the flat list, I'm gonna do a content container style gap 5. It's not gonna be visible now, but as we will add more users, it's going to be visible there. So now what I can do is whenever I press on this user, I want to start a chat with him. So maybe we need like an icon or something like that. Let me check how others are doing. For example, if I do this, there are profile pictures, and that's it, nothing more. So yeah, you could also render the avatar of a user here, but I'm not gonna do that for now. I just want to go ahead and do git add, git commit -m. Let's do a list of users. Having this list of users, when I press on one of them, I want to start a chat with him. Are you using Expo Go? So far, we are using Expo Go. So let's go ahead and do a pressable. And we need a pressable to be able to render on press events. For example, const on press, do something. So when we press on a user, we want to start a chat with him. How do we do that? We can do that using the chat client that we can take from the use chat context, and from there we can take the client. From there we can take the client. And using the client, we can go ahead and say const channel equal client dot create channel. Create channel type. What? Let me check. Let's go to the Streamchat documentation. Not under the UI components, but under the client. So creating a channel works as client.channel. Okay, without even create. So client.channel. And here first thing is the channel type. The channel type represents some predefined configuration and permission for that channel type. By default, there are, if we look under the documentation under the channel types, where is it? Let's see. Type. Where is it? Channel type. Channel types overview. Oh, here, the second one. So there are 5 built-in channel types. There is live stream. This has defaults in case you want to build a chat like the YouTube or the Twitch, where even guest users can type. You can do that here. There is messages that's more similar to WhatsApp or Facebook messaging. There is team, which is very similar to how Slack is working. Commerce, that's for, let's say, e-commerce application. And gaming, that would be the default for games. But there is not like these channel types. These are not completely different things. All of them are the same channel behind the scenes. The type is only a combination of permission and default settings. If you go to your project under channel types, you're gonna see these 4 channel types. If you open messaging, you see what default configuration they have. They have typing events, but if you look at the live streaming are not going to have typing events, because imagine if 1,000 people will write at the same time. So you see, these are just configurations. That's what channel types actually are. So in our case, because we're building a messaging application, we're gonna do messaging. Channel client messaging. The second one is going to be the channel ID. There are actually 2 ways to create channels. There is a way to create a channel using the channel ID. And this one, let's say it's similar to a group or a channel where you want to later invite multiple other people. But you can also create a channel using a list of members. For example, if you want to create a channel between 2 users, it's better to use this method, because it will also ensure that there is not already a channel created between these 2 users. So for one-on-one conversations, it's better to not specify an ID, but use a list of members under the members here. So that's what we're gonna do here. Instead of providing an ID, I'm going to provide here a list of members, where the first one, I want to be myself. So very egoistic, right? So let's take the user using the use of hook, but because we already have a user, this one is going to be me. I'm gonna rename it to me. So in the list of members, I'm gonna put myself, me.id, and also the user that I want to chat with .id. And this is just creating the configuration of a channel. In order to actually create it, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do await channel dot create. This will create the channel. We need to make it async. However, if we want to subscribe to this channel updates, we should better call watch, which will create and subscribe to updates. And once this is done, I'd like to go to the channel details. We have already a page for the channel details under home, channel, and the ID. So using here router, I can do router dot push, or better even replace, in order not to be able to get back on that screen, but to get back on the home screen. To the slash, I'm going to avoid home, or maybe even just put it here, home, then channel. Then we need the channel ID, and the channel ID is going to be right ID of a channel that we created here, channel.id. So with that, I think it's supposed to work. If I go here, I press on this user, I'm starting a channel with that user. Is it working? I don't know. Doesn't really seem to work. Or let's go into the Explorer to see channels, messaging with members. I think it should work. Messaging. Config. It has members here, and it has 2 members. And why don't you work here? Oh, because I need CID, not ID. You see? My bad. Now, if I go back to the home screen, that's happening because I navigated using replace and not push. If I go back here, we see that we have a chat with this user. And I can say, hello. And that user will receive this message. And if I go again here and press again on this user, it's not going to create a new one. It's going to simply find that channel that has this combination of users. And it doesn't matter the order of IDs, it's going to find them in both combinations. So if there is already a channel with those members, it's going to return that one, so you don't have to worry about duplicating it. Perfect, 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 perfect. What's this possible handle? Stop player. Yeah, because we are not using Expo AV, so that's not a problem. But that is our user list item. And then if you're gonna go ahead and create another profile, for example, sign out, and let's reload the application just to make sure that everything is gonna work correctly. Test2 or test1 at gmail.com. Test or sign up. And then if we're gonna go to the profile and say that my name is test1, and let's upload another avatar, update, yeah, if I update, if I go here, we see two users. I can start a conversation with the first one. Hey, Vadim. And I can also start a conversation with the second one, with test. Hello, test. Send. Nice. And I'll have both of them here. I can send reactions, I can pin, I can edit, delete, thread, and a lot more. I can even send pictures. If I do allow, I'm gonna be able to send a picture here. Just like that. How easy and how complex our application is at the same time. Like how many features we have out of a box. Like it's impressive. So that was our git add git commit -m. Start a channel with a user. Perfect. Okay. So guys, look, I have a dilemma right now. I'm looking at the clock. We have around 1 more hour in this tutorial. We have 1 more hour, and most probably I'm not going to manage to do it today with a video. So I'm thinking either to rush it through and do the video today, or to properly do it slower and do the episode 2 in which we're gonna do the video. And this way we're gonna even be able to accomplish more features, because we still have to authenticate the user from our server side, because at the moment, if we look into the providers of provider, chat provider, we are using dev tokens. It works, but it's good for development. In production, we shouldn't ship with this one. So I want to show you how to do that on the server. Then I want to show you the video calls. Then I want to show you how you can create a chat room for a video call, such as like you have Zoom and then you have a chat. And also how you can create a video call for a channel. And then notifications. So I think I didn't realize the scope of a project. So most probably we're gonna have to do part 2. What do you say, guys? Or do it fast today, but I'm not sure if we will be able to do it. Video calling plus notification in part 2. Or only video calling today. No notification. Let's see. You decide, guys. Either we finish today with proper authentication and then do part 2 dedicated to video calling and notifications, or we do the video calling now, but we skip over things. I'm pretty sure what you're gonna say. While you're voting, I'm gonna grab another coffee and then we continue. All right, guys? See you very soon. So 100% of people said part 2, the video calling and notification. So that's good. That means that we're going to have another part. And sorry for the mispromise that we're going to have everything by the end of the video. But I hope you're going to enjoy that. It's full and complete and we cover way more things because I really want this tutorial to be helpful whenever you need to integrate Streamchat in your application. I recommend it to a lot of developers and it's going to be easy to point them to this tutorial so that they see the full setup, which is scalable and not like with dummy data and so on. So let me check some comments and we continue because today we still have a lot of things to do. We still have to do a lot of stuff. So let me bring some question in. I'm gonna spend 5 minutes for the question until I drink my coffee so that we can then continue. I have a question. Don't know if you, wait, let me do it like this so that you can see it as well. Don't know if you covered it in other videos. Expo's template project imports view and text from a theme directory. Is there benefit extending it or better use React Native lib? So the view and text from that theme directory is extending the default view and text from React Native library with the benefit of changing the colors based on the theme. So it will support dark and light theme out of the box. But these are only for the view and the text. If you want the whole application to support it, you'd have to implement like other components as well. So whenever you're setting manually like background color white, for example, for a scroll view, you're gonna better add it yourself to the theme and have like the same checks to do either background color white or black, depending on the theme of the user. So it's kind of the same, it's using the same component. It only adds this small benefit of checking like, should it be white or black? And that's it. Oh, I almost spilled my coffee. That would have been bad. Coming after the Twitter clone series, Vadim, you are a top-notch tutor. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Are you using Expo Go? Yes, so far we are using Expo Go, but in the next tutorial, when integrating the video, we're going to build a development client. I'm taking some pills for my acne, and because of that, my lips are very dry. So sorry for. The group push notifications. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe we're gonna cover it in the next video, but I cannot promise you that. What have I missed? Oh, you missed a lot, but the good thing is that the tutorial is going to be published on the channel. So far, we have set up this chatting application, which you can sign in, create an account, then talk with our users. Guys, do you want to also join the conversation? Let's go ahead, and if you have Expo Go, go ahead and scan this QR code, and I think you're going to be able to join. No, I think I need to run it with Tunnel. Let me check. If I do npm start Tunnel, will it work? So now, if you open Expo Go on your device and scan this QR code, you're going to be able to join the same application. So go ahead, create an account, and then send me a message. I'm interested to see like more messages here. Let's go. If you're watching this live, that would be nice. This is only going to be available while we are live. Like after I reset it, like you're not going to be able to see it, but with the live viewers, I think it's going to be nice. So I'm going to leave it here and see who is the first one to send a message. Get your Expo Go running. Why Supabase, not Firebase? I've never been a fan of Firebase, but Supabase is really great. It's open source, it's built on top of Postgres, and it offers a lot of nice features. So highly recommend checking it out. Should I build React Native apps in Typescript or should I stick with regular JavaScript? My answer here is if you are just starting and if React Native is still new to you and gives you challenges, stick to JavaScript. But as soon as you feel comfortable with React Native and with JavaScript, At that point, switch to TypeScript, because if you can, TypeScript is always going to be better. It's going to help you make less mistakes where, depending on like what variables is expected, like in your functions, properties, parameters, and so on. But I understand, like if you're just getting started, TypeScript might feel intimidating. So go ahead, feel comfortable with React Native and JavaScript, and only then switch to TypeScript. Are we implementing disappearing feature too? Disappearing features, oh, I didn't think about that. Like messages that would disappear. What exact issues are you facing in responsiveness? Do we have any user? Yes, we have new users created. Guys, okay, we have a first message. And we see that the user is typing. I'll say hello. Oh, it's привет. Let's do here. Привет. So, who else has joined? Okay, you said. Why is the title of this channel like this? That's because when you created the channel, I think you didn't have a username set and you only set it later. Yeah, they are displaying the... Yeah, I know. This is coming because, yeah, like we synchronize the profile ID and profile name when we do the connection. But in the profile screen, it's going to be updated when later you're gonna rejoin later, and it's going to do connect. It's going to connect to the client again. To fix this issue, like in the profile, where is it? The tabs profile. When we call update profile, I think here we can also update the Streamchat user. And the documentation for that would be, oh, we have a lot of channels and members. Hopefully I'm not gonna get out of free tier. Yeah, the documentation for that would be under users, manage users. Nice. Here is a picture. It also has picture view. As you can see, it also shows like if a user is online or not. So let's go on. And what I have to do, okay, let me check Git status. Everything is clean. Can we have a chat room or a group chat? Yes, we can definitely have that by either creating a chat room with an ID and then inviting users there, which would be more suitable for a group chat, because if we create it with a members list here, channels, creating. The thing is that if you create a channel with members, you cannot add members later for this channel. So if you want a group chat, this is good like for one-on-one or for small groups where you want them to be unique. If you want to be able to invite users, you're going to create it like this and then add members to that channel by calling updating channel members, by calling channel.addMembers. If we have time, we're going to cover it today. But the first step that I want to cover is going to be in the provider, in the chat provider. As I am saying, we are still using development tokens. Let's go ahead in the Streamchat here under client and users, token and authentication. So the token is how Streamchat makes sure that the user that is connecting to Streamchat is exactly the user that it's claiming to be. So here is where your backend can prove that. A backend will serve as a token provider, and at a high level, the token provider, like your backend, should be able to receive information about a user from the frontend, should validate that the user is the right user, he's not banned, he's exactly who he says it is, and then provide a user ID corresponding to that user to the client's token creation method. So basically it should generate a token and return the token to the front end. Generating token on a server side is super simple because we use the same Streamchat dependency, for example, from Node.js, the same Streamchat, but on the backend, we can use the API secret. And the API secret is what will sign that token to make sure that it only can be signed by your backend. Never do that on a front end. Secrets should never be included on the front end. And yeah, that's the whole idea. The idea is to generate the secret on the backend using Streamchat SDK, using your secret key. To do that, we need to run some code on the backend. Our backend, we are using Supabase. To run code in our backend, Supabase have edge functions. Edge functions is the functions that you can run and you can build and run and host them in the cloud and execute by sending like a request to a URL. So these are exactly like the backend functions that you need. And we are going to go ahead and create one of these edge functions that will be responsible for generating tokens for users to be able to authenticate with Streamchat. So let's go into the documentation of edge functions. And the functions that can allow you to integrate with third party like Stripe and so on. We are using Deno, which is similar to Node.js with some differences. So let's go ahead and go into the getting started of edge functions. The first step is going to be to initialize Supabase locally. Let's go into if you don't have CLI installed, go into the CLI docs, and I'm going to show you what you have to install here. Under getting started for local CLI, we are not going to install it globally. I'd rather use npx Supabase to always invoke it and use the latest version of Supabase. So we don't have to install it globally. Because with npx, we don't have to keep track of updating it. Then we need to set up our system to be able to run Supabase locally, because that will help us run the Supabase and functions locally and easier test them before submitting to production. This is in a way optional, but it's going to be very helpful for you to test and make sure that your function is working as you expect it to do. So for that, you would need to install Docker Desktop. Docker Desktop. It's available on both Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, as you can see here. And then that's it. Then we can do Supabase init and then Supabase start. I'm gonna go back to the edge functions documentation, and I'm gonna start with the init. Let's go in our project and start initializing the Supabase project here in our React Native application. Again, the commands that you see with Supabase, we are going to execute using npx Supabase. So let's start with npx Supabase init. It will ask us to generate the settings for Deno. Let's say yes. This will help us write our function. This generated a Supabase function here. Let's see what would be the next steps. Creating an edge function. Before I do that, I think I want to connect. Yeah, before I do that, let me check something else. Let me go to the CLI, because I want to connect my local database with the remote project that I already have. So in the getting started, do we say something about Supabase? Okay, CLI configuration, local development. We need to link it, and I know the command. I just want to show you where to find it. Here, Supabase link, and then project ref and your project reference. For example, npx Supabase link -- project ref, and then the reference of your project. Let's go into the Supabase. I'm gonna go under the project settings. And here we have a project reference. Let's copy it and let's paste it here. The next step, it will ask us for the database password. So that's where you need the database password that you stored before. I'm gonna do it like this, connecting, Supabase, all good. It configured it. And now what we can do is we can pull the database from remote locally, so that when we run it locally, it's going to have the same database structure at least. To do that, we're gonna do Supabase pull, I think. No? Oh, Supabase DB pull. Let's do npx Supabase DB pull. So it will look at the schema from the remote database and it will try to recreate it locally in a Docker container. So that's why you need Docker desktop to be running. Is it running for me? Let's press yes here. And we see that it finished and the open storage schema are excluded. Okay, so source, where is it? Supabase. It has this migration that has all the configuration that we need. Like, you don't need to care about that, but it's there. Now what you can do is you can start Supabase locally using npx Supabase start. This will start your stack locally, but we see that I'm already running another project and it's telling me that I can stop it using this command. So npx and then Supabase stop project ID prep stream. That was for preparing. Now I can do again npx Supabase start. Okay. Hey, Dev Kumar Sharma. Thank you for joining. And just like that, our Supabase now runs locally. Here are a lot of configuration. You can also access the studio by following this URL. So now it will be the same studio, but it's running locally. So that's also another power of Supabase. Because it's open source, you can run it anywhere, locally, on AWS, on any kind of service. You don't have to run it on supabase.com. That's really powerful. At the moment, we don't, to connect to this local Supabase, you'd have to change in the environment the Supabase URL to this one, API URL, and the unknown key to this one. But I don't want to do that at the moment. I did this local configuration because I want to set up our functions, our edge functions. Let me do git status and do git add git commit -m local Supabase clear. And now I want to go ahead and set up the functions. So back into the edge functions documentation, getting started. What I want to do is first do Supabase functions new and then the name of the function. Let's do that using npx Supabase functions new, and then let's call it stream-token. The function responsible for generating stream tokens. This is a function that will run in our backend. It's not a front-end function. Now, what this has done is in the Supabase, it created these functions folder with a stream token folder, and here an index. This is the code for our hello world function. Let's go ahead and see how we can run it. It already has some code here like hello and the name that we send. So let's test it together how to run these edge functions locally. First, you need to do Supabase start. We already have done that. And the second one is do npm Supabase functions serve. This is a way to get access to Supabase functions serve. This is going to serve a function, and also we're going to see all the logs here. Now we see that we can invoke the function by sending a request to this URL, functions v1, and then the function name. In the documentation, it shows like the curl request, how we can invoke this function. So let's take this curl request, and I'm going to put it somewhere here in the code. Actually, it's already here in this code. So stream token, and also it has automatically this token, which if you didn't have, you would have to do npx supabase status, and this npm supabase status would tell you what is the anon key that you need to use when invoking your local function. In my case, I'm going to copy this curl command, which was generated for you as well. So just copy it from your terminal. And in a new terminal, let's send this command. What we see is that we see back the message with hello functions, because that's the data that we send. We send the data name functions. In the other one where we wrote Supabase function serve, we see the logs of that function. And we see the information hello from functions, which is the console log from here. So just like that, we are executing and testing local functions. The next step would be to use Streamchat to generate a token. Let's see in the documentation under the client itself. For React, why are we looking at the React docs? Is that correct? Should be React Native client. Under the, but it's the same, almost the same. Sorry. So under the tokens and authentication, there is generating token, and here we can choose Node.js. This code explains how to generate it on the backend, but also you can go into the documentation directly under not the frontend, but under the backend and check Node.js here. So as I said, our edge functions is using Deno. It's not using Node.js, but Deno is quite compatible with Node.js with some small exceptions, the way it imports modules, for example. So here in the Node.js, we see how we can generate user tokens. First of all, we need to import Streamchat. Let's import Streamchat in Deno here at the top. So we import Streamchat like this. But the thing is that we are using Deno. So with Deno, as I said, the import is a bit differently. We can look here at the example, and where is it? In the guides, there is managing dependencies. You can read more about that, but the simplest way is to just add npm in front of your name. In front of a name, add npm streamchat, and that will work out of the box. You can also use ESM, which is going to be, not sure if I used that here. No, I actually use npm, yeah. So npm stream chat. Now we can do what the Streamchat SDK is saying. We can generate a server client, and the documentation automatically pre-populates with my tokens. I'm going to do that in the denoserve function. Let's do it somewhere here. I'm going to create the client, and then we can generate a token for some kind of user with ID John. Now this token, we need to send it in the response. So in the response, I'm going to send here an object with token that has this value. I don't need any more of the data. I don't need any more of a name. I don't even think I need, I will need request a bit later. But now what's happening is I just want to install Streamchat. I want to generate a client using both the public key and the server, the secret key, and then using create token. I'm creating the token and I'm sending it back as a response. Let's open back the terminal. And when we did function serve, this command Supabase will watch the function and will update every time we do some changes. So that means that now we can simply go here and send the request again. And back we should receive a token if everything works. And actually everything worked. The first time it took a little bit longer because it needed some time to download Streamchat SDK. But now if I do it again, it's instant. See? Boom, instant. Again, instant. So now we have a server-side generated token. But that's not it. What do we want to do first? There is a couple of things that are hard-coded here, which I don't like, which are the keys, which I'd prefer to have as secrets, not as environment variables, and never in the code, especially this one. This is a secret. And also, the ID of a user is hard-coded. How can we get the ID of a user that is doing this request? Let's have a look. Let's go back to the edge function documentation of Supabase. And here, there is a guide for integrating with Supabase off. With integrating with Supabase off, we are taking the authorization header, and then we are creating a Supabase client with the environment variable like Supabase URL and the anonymous key, and using that header, fetching the user. And then we are just fetching the user with that data. So let's first create a Supabase client in our edge function. We import create client from the Supabase JS. We first take the authorization header and then we create the Supabase client in the deno.serve. I'm going to do it at the top here, like this. Authorization header is this header, where header authorization, this is the authorization header that we are sending when invoking the function. And we can only invoke the function as a signed in user. Now we take that auth header and we are sending it to the configuration of create client. This way we are sending it with the same user as the user doing the request. Now we are using some environment variables that are pre-populated. This one we don't have to provide, they are automatically there, such as Supabase URL and anon key. Now having this Supabase client, we can go ahead in the next step and fetch the user that is doing the request. So this is the code, and I'm gonna do it after a Supabase client. Token. Token, this is off token, and I'm gonna use it here to get the user. So I'm just simply removing the word bearer, I don't know how to pronounce it, and only keeping the token itself. And then using Supabase client of get user, I'm getting the user for that token. And then that's the user. There might be a situation where the user is null. So if there is no user, in that case, let's return something like this. I'm going to return a new response. Maybe I'm going to say error user not found. Otherwise, go ahead and generate the token, but in this case, not for some kind of John, but for user.id. Now, if I'm gonna go ahead and invoke this function, you're gonna see something. You're gonna see that error user not found. Why? Because we are using the authentication token for an anonymous user. We are in this CLI, we're not signed in as any user. If, however, we take the authentication token of a specific user, in that case, it's going to work properly. And we're going to test it a bit later, but most like 99% of cases, it's going to work. Now, the last step is going to be this environment variables, these keys that I want to set as environment variables. Let's go ahead in the documentation, and here is managing environment variables. We can load them using Deno and my secret. And the way we provide them is going to be the following. First, let's create in the Supabase folder a file called .env.local. So in the Supabase folder, let's create a file called .env.local, which will be the environment variables that we want to use locally. Here we need two keys. Streamchat, how is it called? How did we call it? Streamchat, stream API key and stream secret. Stream in the env local, stream API key equal to something and stream API secret equal. Now let's move the values from here to the environment local and from here to environment local. And when getting the instance, we're gonna use deno.env.get and the name is going to be stream API key. And this one, stream API secret. Deno.env.get stream API secret. Hopefully that was going to work. Oh, it should be strings, sorry, here. String and here string. But this one, why it says stream API key? Yeah, hope it's gonna work. To test it, I'm going to comment out this check to not stop if a user is not there. And here I'm going to do user $ID or John, but this is for temporary. Remember to come back and delete it. We're gonna do that in a second. Or John. Now to test it out, we need to stop where we ran function serve and call it again, but this time provide env file and then Supabase the location of our env local, .env local. Now we're gonna run these functions using the environment file that we set here. And if it correctly was set, we're going to have access to this and it's going to create correctly the token. Let's try to send this request again. And we have a token. That means that it correctly got the environment variables. If you're not sure, you can console log it here and you're gonna see them. Now I want to go back and remove this one because this was temporary to check if we have access to environment variables. Because if there is no user, I want to stop here because there is no point to generate something if we don't know for whom we're generating. And speaking about environment variables, this is Supabase serve using environment variables. Now production secrets. With this command, we are basically copying the environment local in .env. So let's do that. And you're gonna see that by running this command, it copy pasted the env.local into the .env. Make sure to never commit these files to your source repository or Git. And to do that, I'm going to open this git ignore, and we have a .env, but I think I want to also add the env.local. env local, just to make sure that we never commit these two files to Git. Now, the next step is going to be to run Supabase secret, which is going to look at the environment file and will create secret values in Supabase. And these secrets will be added automatically as environment variables when deploying the function, or after deploying the function, they will be there. So if I copy this command and add npx in front of it, npx Supabase secret set, and using the file that we just created here, we see that they have been set, and now we can look at Supabase secrets list. If you run this command, you should see the secrets that your project has. You can also check them through your Supabase dashboard. If you go to project, where is it? Edge functions, maybe not edge functions, maybe project settings. They should be here as well. We're gonna see them later, probably after deploying the edge functions. So let's see. But if we run Supabase secret list and they are there, everything is good. Okay, so now that we have a secret, we have environment variables, we are properly doing everything locally, we tested it locally. Now it's time to go ahead and deploy our function to production, to our Supabase application running on supabase.com. In the quick start, there is deploy to production. Make sure you are logged in. Make sure that your project is linked. We already have done that. And now it's time to do functions deploy. As simple as that. npx Supabase functions deploy. Now it will take the local function and will deploy it to Supabase. We see deployed function stream token on this project. If we go to this project under edge functions, we see the edge function here. And also a button manage secrets, which contains our stream API key, stream secret, and the rest that are default from Supabase. So this is the URL that the function can be invoked. What we can do is we can copy it and go back to that terminal where we were testing using curl commands our function, this one. And I think we can remove a URL and replace it with the public URL. And if I do that, we see invalid JWT because we are using a different auth token. We are using an authorization token for local, but I'm trying to access a different database, a remote one. So we would also have to update the bearer token using the anon key from your Supabase dashboard. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to assume that it works, and I'm going to go ahead and invoke this function directly from JavaScript. So invoking remote functions from JavaScript is as simple as doing await Supabase functions invoke and the name of a function. Where do we need that? We need that in a utility function. So let's create a folder utils, and the utility will be called token provider.tsx. Let's export a function, export const token provider, which is going to be an async function that will do the following. It will get data from calling the Supabase dot functions. The function name is stream-token. Make sure to call it correctly. And I need functions dot invoke stream.token. And then let's do return data.token, and also maybe do console log data. Now, where do we need to call this function? We need to call that function in the chat provider. We're going to need it for this token. So here, before connect, let's do like this. Const token equal await token provider, and then console log token. Let's see if it works. I'm gonna open this one. I'm gonna reload, and it should fetch the function if everything works. Look, I think I'm gonna stop the tunnel because that takes a little bit more time to load, and we're running out of time actually. Major is asking, did you collab with Catalin? Do you mean Catalin Miron? If yes, then yes, we have a video together with him. It's in the November series, somewhere in day 4, 5, or 6. We have implemented the Tinder swipes with him. We have done some animations with Catalin. Super nice guy. And we have token. We have a token. And I assume that it's the correct one. We can go back to the edge functions. You can press on this edge function, and you can see some metrics. You can see invocations. You can see that it was invoked now, and it has status code 200. If it gives errors, here is the place to see that. And most importantly, in the logs, you can go into the logs and see what it was logging. Because we have that hello from functions, it's logging that here. So what I can do is I can use this token instead of a development token, or I can even send here the token provider like this, because connect user expects either a string or a asynchronous function that will return the token. So now if I do that and then go to the Streamchat, and even in the overview, for authentication, I enable auth checks back, or I disable auth checks. That will mean that my application will no longer work with development tokens. And if I reload the application and I'm back connecting to it, it means that everything is successful. I see that I can go to for example, the first one probably is Vadim Savin. Hello, Vadim. And I will also check if signing in from account also works. I'm gonna do sign out. Maybe I'm gonna reload. And I'm gonna sign in with my first Vadim notjust.dev. Sign in. I'm back here. I have a message from that channel. Hello, Vadim. Hello, test. Hello, test. And it works. Because if it wouldn't work, like if you go to token provider and say return token provider plus ABC, just to have an error, what you're gonna see is the following. You're gonna see possible unhandled promise rejection, failed to authorize. So everything was too smooth for me to believe, but you can see that if we don't provide it, it doesn't work. If everything is correct, it works here wonderfully. And I have a lot of messages from you. Today is rocking the day. Let's go. Perfect. So that was our Supabase backend token generation using Supabase. So let's do git add, git commit -m, Supabase edge function for server side stream token generation. A very long commit message, but that's a long concept to understand. And now our application is actually ready for production. It's no longer using dev tokens, it's using and it's authorizing users based on our own backend that we built and we integrated with Stream. Let's see what messages we have here. Cool. So guys, did you enjoy this one? Did you learn something new today? Let's see. We have a very, not a lot of time left. So, but I'm very happy with how stable we made this application, even though like it's going to allow you to integrate in your application, and I hope you're gonna do it like without a lot of troubles. Hello, привет еще раз, привет, hello. So yeah, perfect. Something else that I wanted here. Let's see. What's up with this promise reject? Cannot have stop player of undefined. Stop player of undefined, that's coming because we do not have some additional packages installed. For example, maybe we have some time to install some of the optional packages. If we go to the Streamchat, docs, React Native UI components, and then in the installation, let's install these optional dependencies, especially Expo AV. Let's open Expo AV documentation and let's run npx expo install Expo AV. I'm gonna open it up here. Let's install it. This will allow us to send videos as well and playback videos. Let's see if it enables it by default automatically, or do we need to do something? For example, if I go into one of these, test one, attach. Not sure if I have a video there, but I can try to drag and drop something really quick. Uno momento, where is it? YouTube content. For example, this one, if I add it here, it added it. Allow. Let's go back and let's try to send a video here. It's sending. Let's see if it's going to work. It's quite a large video, so that's why it takes a bit of time. It has 70 megabytes. Okay, so while we are waiting for it to be uploaded, let's go back to the documentation and install libraries. For example, Expo sharing. This for attachment sharing support. We would be able to share files with other applications. To install it, we're gonna do npx expo install sharing. And here the video is sent. If I send it, will it open? It opens like this, but why it doesn't play it? Maybe because it's too large, you know? Let's do expo sharing. Then the expo haptics, this is to provide haptic feedback, like for example, when selecting a photo or something like that, it can vibrate the phone. Do we need any configuration? Maybe not. For clipboard, this is for copying. For clipboard, okay. Expo document picker to be able to send documents like PDFs and so on. So let's install it as well. And React Native Quick SQLite. This is for running it for offline support, but I'm not sure if it works in. Yeah, most probably it will not work in as. It will need to build a development client. As you can see, like after 4 hours, like I'm already mumbling. So I'm not gonna install this one for now. I highly encourage you to check documentation. In the documentation, you're gonna find a lot of useful information, a lot of things that you can do, a lot of all of these components that you see on the screen, like the channel list, you can adjust and change everything about them. I like that they provide a lot of defaults, which are really powerful, but at the same time, you can adjust everything, like channel preview message, the way you preview the message. You can, the channel preview muted state or preview title. What title do you want? Unread count. Now on the channel itself or on the message list, you can adjust like how you want the message list to look like. And there are, here is the components, but there are the cookbook, custom attachments. Here are information how you can build these things, custom attachment list, custom message actions, you can mute, you can do that. You can do custom autocomplete suggestion, custom message UI if you want. All of that you can do here. And for advanced guys, you can even do audio messages support. And we already have Expo AV, channel audio recording enabled. Let's see if it will work out of the box. If I go to the home channel CID, or under the layout where under the CID where we have channel, and if I do audio recording enable, and if I go here, I have audio recording. Hello, hello, hello. Possible and handle, probably we need to handle the hold to start recording. To start recording of undefined. Is Expo AV? Yeah, I need Expo AV in the plugins. Not sure why not, but we can think about that in the next one. All right, guys. So that is our chat application. Super powerful, out of the box, and fully customizable for you to take it to the next level, to integrate it in different kind of application, and to build chatting experience with every feature that you might expect. We didn't manage to do the video calls now in this tutorial, but we're gonna do that in the part 2. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, press on the notification bell not to miss that video out. We're gonna do that next week. So we're gonna continue the tutorial and add on top of everything that we did today, the video calling features. You're gonna be able to call one-on-one. Maybe we're gonna cover also group calling, and we're gonna integrate notifications. Notifications are going to help us both for to handle the notification for messages, for chat messages that you receive, but more interesting is going to be the notifications that you receive for calls, because we can use the system UI to display a call directly on the screen on iOS, on Android as well. So that's going to be powerful. And yeah, if you enjoy, please make sure to subscribe. Thank you very much, Streamchat, for sponsoring this video and for making such a great solution for developers. And I'm gonna see you next week for the second part. Bye bye, guys. Have a nice weekend ahead.